And if I can bring it closer to home, Bhaskar, my colleague Martin is going to be speaking to the Finance Minister, Lawrence Wong, later on today. If you did have some FaceTime with the Finance Minister, I know that you would talk to him about striking the balance between the pandemic crisis response and longer-term spending needs, especially associated with our ageing demographic and population. And that inevitably means higher taxes, does it not? Can you expand on that and offer us some colour?
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, I would thank each and every one of these policymakers, finance ministers, all of them, central bankers for what they're doing, because it's an extremely difficult balancing act at this point in time. In a way, I'm happy I'm not in any of the issues. So, but I would actually say that, as you rightly said, I think it's all about a balancing act. And I think the question that I would ask really is, what do they see from having to meet some of the near-term challenges, be it in terms of the fact that economies are not fully back on, you still need to provide a certain amount of support for that part of the world. And then again, there are things that are doing exceedingly well. Cost is getting to be an issue through inflation one way or the other. How do you then sort of start equating? Also, people have spent a fair amount of the checkbook over the last couple of years. And I think at some point you have to start thinking about how do you start rebuilding that. So I think these are extreme challenges, and there are no single answers or no right answers or no wrong answers in a way. And I think that's the challenge. That's what I would be asking.
I understand, and being a policymaker, I'm right there with you, it is an unenviable task in the current environment. But Bhaskar, getting back to portfolio management, is inflation peaking? Has it peaked? Is it close to peaking? And if so, then do we want to continue to be positioned in the price makers and those names that have strong balance sheets to ride this out?
Absolutely, Sri. I think one way or the other, I think, the base effect will kick in the second half of this year. So one way or the other, inflation will start to look at least an acceptable number when we come to the second half of this year. It might still remain a bit higher than what most people had hoped for, but I think it'll start tracking down. But I think what you mentioned is absolutely the point I would like to make. Growth is still a scarce commodity. It's not that suddenly the world is growing at a much more aggressive rate. So anything that is good, growing, long-term in nature, structural, a good balance sheet, as you mentioned, good management, I think these are the places you want to be invested in. Actually, not being invested in is just not an option. You have to be invested. That's the real story.